Hi, folks. I wanted to make a little note here because I had a really interesting conversation with Nero the other day, and it just reminded me of something. Back when I was about 21, I was very into Crowley and Austin Osman Spare and Kenneth Grant, and I was walking around Kensington Gardens, which is a lovely park in London, and it was a very hot summer day, and I was feeling very tense and kind of a bit strung out. As those times were very creative, but they were also, in some senses, quite stressful times also. But they were certainly very creative. Anyway, I was walking around Kensington Gardens, and I stopped at a certain point, and I looked out across the round pond to the trees opposite. Lots of trees, and it was high summer, and the sunlight was shining down on these trees. So there was these dark green leaves with shadows between them and everything, and they were moving in the wind. They were moving on this very hot summer day. And suddenly it's like something kind of went twang, or sort of like, something shifted and broke. And it was as if I could see in between all these different things I was seeing in the leaves. I could see in between them to this amazing blackness. And I called it a shiny blackness because it was so alive, as if it was organic and filled with energy, and it was lawless. It was beyond necessity. It was so beautiful. And it was so freeing, and all the tension just broke. And I could see this. This was what I loved. This sense of freedom. And it resonated with something deep within a person's individual deepest nature, or their deepest desires, and their deepest sense of free expressing self. And that was a kind of experience which repeated a few times over different years. And that's the sort of thing I really relate to, because the experience seemed almost watery in a sense, but it was beyond water, sort of fire and water combined. I don't relate very easily to pure fire. It's my strong but difficult element, if you see what I mean. I tend to often think that a person has a strong but natural element, and then they have a strong but difficult element, and then they have the elements which are weaker in them. And it's a scheme which I picked up from the artist Tamar Dion, and I do find it very helpful and very useful. But I relate better to the watery and to the watery sense of things, and I think that's why I related so happily and deeply to Austin Osman Spare, whereas Crowley was always a bit of a mixed bag for me in a way, And Austin Osman Spare used to talk about the inherent dream rather than the true will, and I love that, and I do relate to that. I suppose in a way it is an artist's way rather than a philosopher's way, if you see what I mean, or an artist's way rather than a ritual magician's way. Not sure, but anyway, I love that, and I still do, and it's how I relate to things. And so we might talk about the black flame and things like this, but we could equally talk about this this black fluid almost, this extraordinary thing that is in between everything, or that emerges in between everything from its realm. And I love this sense of it. It's a beautiful thing. I really do. It's freeing and releasing. And I would, in some senses, relate that to the experience of the demons in some way, you know, that we call demons. And afterwards, it sort of came to me, a kind of scheme for myself, a personal scheme for things, because you get these intuitive visualizations of things which are simply models that you relate to and that you engage in to try and order and understand your experience of reality better. And the sense is scheme is simple, and I definitely prefer simplicity. And it was that at the middle of things, we have our world, the world of the seen, the world of the three dimensions, Midgard, if you like. And beyond that, there is the unseen, the world of the spirits, and what we often have termed the astral. In a sense, you could see these two things as solar and lunar in a way, maybe, I'm not sure. But then beyond that, there's a world of the outer world. You could call it the outer darkness, but that darkness isn't dark, if you see what I mean. I mean the outer world, the world beyond necessity, the world beyond causality, the world beyond law. And this is something, that outer world is something which we, at some point, all have to come to terms with. And it's very natural for people to look at that world, and if they have no help with it, to feel fear about it, especially with all the stuff that's built up, all the structures built up to try and fit it into, because it's not a world that likes that sort of structure exactly. But though we fear it, we must come to terms with it in order to live without fear, in order to live beyond fear, in order to be truly sane, in order to be at rest, in order to be at peace, vibrant, creative, in free relationship. With that, what you could call almost a sort of atmospheric bliss, but not a bliss of, not a bliss that's like a boiling pan of water, everything's sort of like, going crazy and, all very dramatic and emotionalist. No, that atmospheric bliss of freedom and self-experience, which is love, and which Austin Osman Spare termed self-love. Go back to Austin Osman Spare. Go back to read The Book of Pleasure, The Focus of Life, all these things. Go and have a look at Austin Osman Spare. He's utterly beautiful and a tremendous being. I really love him to this day. He's a fantastic, superb artist, and there's no word for what he is. Magician doesn't fit, witch doesn't fit. He is, but he is extraordinary, wonderful. Anyway, I hope that was interesting for you. It's certainly makes me feel good, makes me feel happy with things. And I hope you're all well, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.